A man who doesn't chase validation moves through the world differently, and women feel that difference long before they ever understand it. Validation seeking is subtle. It shows up in over explaining yourself, apologizing when you've done nothing wrong, constantly checking her reactions, or reshaping your personality just to keep her pleased. On the surface, it can look polite or caring, but underneath it communicates insecurity. And insecurity, no matter how well dressed it is, quietly erodes respect. When a man knows who he is, he doesn't need constant reassurance that he's enough. He speaks his mind without needing permission. He makes decisions without polling everyone in the room. He doesn't need to win every argument or be praised for every effort. That inner stability creates a calm presence, and calm presence is powerful. Women may never say out loud that they're drawn to it, but they instinctively trust it. Chasing validation often comes from fear of losing her, fear of being misunderstood, fear of not being chosen, but respect is never born from fear. The more a man tries to prove his worth, the more he silently communicates that he doubts it himself. A man who respects himself doesn't need to convince anyone. His standards, boundaries, and actions do the talking for him. This doesn't mean being cold, arrogant, or emotionally distant. It means you don't outsource your self worth. Compliments are appreciated, not required. Attention is enjoyed, not chased. Approval becomes optional, not necessary. When a man reaches that point, his energy shifts. He becomes less reactive, less desperate, and far more grounded. And grounded men are respected because they are predictable in the best way, emotionally steady, and internally aligned. Women test men in small, unconscious ways to see if they stand on solid ground. They change their tone, pull back slightly, challenge a decision, or express disapproval. A validation seeking man panics in those moments. He explains, fixes, adjusts, and apologizes. A self assured man observes, stays calm, and remains consistent. He doesn't fight the test, and he doesn't fail it either. He simply remains himself. That consistency builds trust, and trust is the foundation of respect. A man who doesn't chase validation is comfortable with disagreement. He doesn't take it as rejection. He understands that two people can see the same situation differently without either being wrong. That emotional maturity is rare. When a man can stand firm without raising his voice or shrinking his presence, he demonstrates quiet authority. Respect grows when a woman realizes she can't manipulate a man's behavior through approval or disapproval. His mood doesn't swing based on her reactions. His direction doesn't collapse under criticism. He listens, but he decides. That doesn't make him stubborn. It makes him self led, and self led men naturally lead others. The truth is, women don't respect men who live to be chosen. They respect men who choose themselves first and invite others into their lives, not beg for entry. Validation free men don't chase love, they allow it to meet them where they stand. And that is the kind of presence that commands respect without ever asking for it. Because the moment you stop seeking validation, you stop shrinking. And when you stop shrinking, respect has room to grow. Emotional control is one of the most misunderstood qualities in a man, especially when it comes to respect. Many people confuse it with emotional suppression, but the two are very different. Suppression is when emotions are buried, denied, or ignored until they explode in unhealthy ways. Control, on the other hand, is awareness. It's the ability to feel everything fully without allowing those feelings to dictate reckless words or impulsive actions. Women don't respect men who feel nothing. They respect men who feel deeply and still choose restraint. A man with emotional control doesn't react instantly to discomfort. When he feels anger, he pauses before speaking. When he feels hurt, he doesn't rush to defend his ego. When something doesn't go his way, he doesn't spiral into blame or self pity. That pause, that space between feeling and action, is where strength lives. It shows maturity, it shows leadership, and it shows that he can be trusted under pressure. Many men lose respect not because they feel too much, but because they express it without regulation. Emotional outbursts, pacifist behavior, silent treatment, or dramatic reactions create instability. Instability makes people uneasy. A woman may care about a man like that, but respect quietly fades when she feels she has to manage his emotions. Emotional control removes that burden. It tells her, without words, that he can handle life's challenges without falling apart. A controlled man doesn't weaponize his emotions. He doesn't guilt threaten or emotionally punish when he's upset. He communicates clearly, calmly, and directly. He can say he's disappointed without being cruel. He can express frustration without becoming intimidating. He can admit he's hurt without making it her responsibility to fix him. That balance is powerful because it shows self respect and emotional intelligence at the same time. Women often test emotional strength not by creating chaos, but by observing reactions. They notice how a man handles disagreement, criticism, or temporary distance. A man who panics, chases reassurance, or lashes out reveals emotional dependence. A man who remains steady, respectful, and self contained communicates inner security. That security builds attraction, but more importantly, it builds respect. Emotional control also means knowing when to disengage. Not every argument needs to be won. Not every emotion needs to be expressed in the moment. Sometimes the strongest move is silence, reflection, and a calm response later. That doesn't make a man weak, it makes him strategic. Women respect men who choose peace over ego battles because it signals long term thinking and emotional depth. This kind of control doesn't come from pretending to be unaffected, it comes from self awareness and discipline. A man who understands his emotional triggers and takes responsibility for them gains power over himself, and a man who has power over himself doesn't need to dominate others. His presence alone creates stability. In relationships, emotional control becomes a form of leadership. It sets the emotional tone. When a man remains grounded during uncertainty, it reassures the woman beside him. She feels safe to be emotional because he is steady. That polarity creates balance, and balance creates respect. At the end of the day, women don't respect men who never feel, they respect men who don't let feelings run their lives. Because the man who can master his emotions can be trusted with hers as well. Boundaries are one of the clearest reflections of how a man values himself, and women notice this even when they never mention it. A man who enforces his boundaries calmly, without anger or drama, sends a powerful message. He respects his own time, energy, and standards. That kind of self respect doesn't need loud announcements. It's communicated through consistent action, and consistency is what earns lasting respect. Many men believe that being agreeable will keep peace and maintain attraction. But over time, it does the opposite. When a man tolerates disrespect, ignores his own limits, or constantly compromises his values to avoid conflict, he quietly teaches others how to treat him. Women may enjoy the convenience of a man who never says no, but respect fades when they realize he doesn't stand for anything firm. Boundaries are not walls meant to push people away, they are filters that allow the right behavior to stay. A man who enforces boundaries without drama doesn't argue endlessly or try to convince someone to understand him. He states his expectations clearly and calmly. If those expectations are ignored, he doesn't raise his voice or become emotional. He adjusts his behavior instead. He steps back, withdraws access, or walks away when necessary. That quiet response is far more powerful than emotional confrontation because it shows inner control and self trust. Drama often comes from insecurity. When a man isn't confident in his worth, he feels the need to explain, justify, or defend his boundaries. A self respecting man doesn't do that. He understands that people who value him don't need excessive explanations. He doesn't chase compliance. He allows others to reveal whether they can meet his standards. That patience is strength. Women test boundaries unconsciously to see where a man stands. They may cancel plans last minute, speak disrespectfully during an argument, or push for behavior that crosses his values. These moments aren't always intentional, but they are revealing. A man who folds under pressure loses credibility. A man who responds calmly and consistently earns respect, even if the moment creates temporary tension. Respect is built when a woman realizes she cannot push him off his center. Enforcing boundaries without drama also means knowing when not to react. Not every comment deserves response. Not every provocation deserves engagement. Silence, distance, or a simple refusal can communicate more than a long emotional explanation. A man who knows when to disengage demonstrates emotional maturity and self control, which ties directly into leadership and masculine presence. Healthy boundaries also create emotional safety. When a man knows his limits and honors them, the woman around him feels more secure. She knows where he stands. She knows what behavior is acceptable and what isn't. That clarity removes confusion and power games. It allows respect to grow naturally instead of being forced through control or fear. The strongest boundaries are enforced through action, not words. A man doesn't threaten to leave, he leaves. He doesn't beg for respect, he requires it through his behavior. That alignment between words and actions builds trust. And trust is one of the foundations of respect, whether spoken or unspoken. In the end, women don't respect men who tolerate everything. They respect men who know their worth and protect it calmly. Because when a man can say no without anger and walk away without resentment, he proves that his self respect is not negotiable. A man whose life has direction carries a different kind of weight, and women feel it immediately. When a man has a purpose that exists beyond the relationship, it changes how he shows up. He's not clingy. He's not desperate for attention. He's present when he's there, but he's not empty without her. That balance is deeply respected, even if it's never verbalized. Many men make the mistake of turning a relationship into their entire identity. Their goals shrink. Their routines revolve around availability. Their mood rises and falls based on how the relationship feels that day. At first, this can look like devotion, but over time it creates pressure. No one wants to feel responsible for someone else's sense of meaning. Women respect men who bring fullness into a relationship, not men who expect the relationship to complete them. Purpose gives a man structure, it gives him discipline. It gives him something to wake up for even when life feels heavy, whether that purpose is building a career, mastering a skill, improving his body, serving a cause, or creating something meaningful. It anchors him. And anchored men are steady men. That steadiness creates respect because it shows reliability and long term thinking. A man with purpose doesn't disappear emotionally, but he also doesn't hover. He understands that attraction grows in space, not suffocation. He invests in the relationship without abandoning himself. He keeps his commitments, but he also honors his mission. That balance communicates self respect and confidence. Women don't want to be the center of a man's universe, they want to be a valued part of a universe that's already moving forward. Purpose also sharpens a man's standards. When he knows where he's going, he's less willing to tolerate distractions that pull him off course. He chooses his time carefully. He protects his energy. He doesn't get lost in drama because drama doesn't align with his direction. That clarity is attractive, but more importantly, it commands respect. Women observe how a man handles sacrifice. Does he abandon his goals at the first sign of emotional pressure, or does he stay aligned while still being caring? A man who sacrifices everything for a relationship often loses himself. A man who sacrifices nothing loses connection. The respected man knows the difference. He adjusts without collapsing. He prioritizes without erasing himself. Purpose also gives a man patience. When his life is built on long term goals, he's not rushed by emotional highs and lows. He doesn't chase instant gratification. He's willing to walk away from situations that don't align with where he's headed. That ability to delay pleasure and tolerate discomfort signals maturity and strength. A woman may never say it directly, but she feels safer with a man who knows his path. She senses that he can lead, not control, because he leads himself first. His confidence doesn't come from the relationship validating him, it comes from daily progress towards something meaningful. That independence allows him to love without attachment and commit without losing himself. At the end of the day, women don't respect men who build their lives around a relationship. They respect men who build their lives and invite the right relationship to walk beside them. Because purpose doesn't compete with love, it gives love a place to stand. Strength paired with calm masculinity is one of the rarest qualities a man can develop, and that rarity is exactly why it earns so much respect. Many men believe strength must be allowed to be seen, dominant voices, aggressive postures, constant proving. But true strength doesn't need to announce itself. It's felt in how a man carries himself, how he responds under pressure, and how little he needs to force his presence on others. Calm masculinity begins with self mastery. A man who's at ease with himself doesn't rush to interrupt, over explain, or compete for attention. He listens more than he speaks, and when he does speak, his words carry weight. That quiet authority signals confidence, not passivity. Women respect men who don't need to win every conversation or assert dominance to feel powerful. Many men confuse control with leadership. Control is reactive and fear based. Leadership is grounded and composed. A calm man doesn't try to control a woman's emotions, decisions, or independence. He allows her to be herself while remaining centered in who he is. That emotional stability creates polarity. It allows femininity to relax because it isn't being challenged or managed aggressively. Calm strength also shows up in how a man handles conflict. Instead of raising his voice, he lowers it. Instead of escalating, he de escalates. He doesn't avoid conflict, but he approaches it with clarity and restraint. This makes his boundaries and decisions harder to dismiss because they come from composure rather than emotion. Women respect men who can stand firm without becoming hostile. There is also physical and energetic presence to calm masculinity. It's in posture, eye contact, and movement. A man who moves with intention rather than haste signals confidence. He doesn't fidget or seek approval through exaggerated gestures. His stillness speaks louder than nervous energy ever could. That presence creates a sense of safety and reliability. Calm masculinity is not weakness. It doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or avoiding confrontation. It means choosing the most effective response, not the most emotional one. A calm man knows when to speak and when to walk away. He understands that walking away with dignity often communicates more power than winning an argument. Women may not consciously articulate this, but they feel more relaxed around men who are calm and strong. There's less emotional volatility, less unpredictability, less need to walk on eggshells. That emotional safety breeds respect because it allows trust to grow naturally over time. This kind of masculinity is also attractive because it isn't performative. It doesn't depend on mood, attention, or validation. It's consistent. Whether things are going well or falling apart, the man remains steady. That steadiness makes him dependable, and dependability is one of the quiet foundations of respect. In a world full of noise, reactions, and emotional chaos, calm strength stands out, communicates maturity, confidence, and leadership without saying a word. And women respect men who don't try to overpower the world, but instead have already mastered themselves. The ability to walk away peacefully is one of the most misunderstood signs of strength, yet it is one of the most respected qualities a man can have. Most men are taught that leaving means losing, that walking away is weakness, or that holding on at all costs proves commitment. But the truth is very different. A man who can let go with dignity shows that his self-worth is not dependent on another person's approval, attention, or presence. Walking away peacefully does not mean a lack of emotion. It means having enough emotional control to not let pain turn into desperation. When a man begs, argues, threatens, or tries to force someone to stay, he gives away his power. He communicates that he needs the relationship more than he needs his self-respect. Women may feel sympathy in those moments, but respect quietly disappears. Respect cannot coexist with neediness. A man who walks away calmly understands something deeper. He knows that love, respect, and desire cannot be negotiated. If something has to be forced, explained endlessly, or chased, it has already lost its value. So instead of creating chaos, he chooses composure. He accepts reality as it is. Coach, not acceptance, is strength. There is also a quiet confidence in knowing when to stop investing. A peaceful exit says, I know what I bring and I won't stay where it isn't valued. No insults, no revenge, no dramatic speeches. Just alignment between words and actions. That alignment leaves a lasting impression because it shows emotional maturity and self-respect. Women often remember how a man leaves more than why he left. Emotional explosions, guilt trips, or bitterness can overshadow everything that came before. But when a man exits calmly with grace and dignity, it creates contrast, challenges expectations. Even if the relationship ends, Respect remains because he didn't try to control the outcome through emotional force. Walking away peacefully also protects a man's future. When he doesn't burn bridges or act out of ego, he preserves his integrity. He doesn't carry resentment forward. He processes the experience, learns from it, and moves on stronger. That forward motion is deeply respected because it shows resilience rather than emotional stagnation. This ability is closely tied to boundaries, purpose, and emotional control. A man who knows his direction doesn't cling to what no longer aligns. A man who respects himself doesn't chase what walks away. And a man who controls his emotions doesn't let rejection define his identity. Everything connects. Women may never say it out loud, but they feel the weight of a man who can let go without collapsing. It signals that he will be strong in hardship, stable in uncertainty, and respectful even in loss. Those qualities extend far beyond relationships. They reflect character. At the end of the day, walking away peacefully is not about giving up. It's about choosing dignity over ego, self-respect over attachment, and growth over emotional chaos. And that choice is what earns lasting respect long after the goodbye.